from the previous lesson, I showed you how to get greatest common factor of monomials. So in this lesson, you will still factor out that greatest common factor. We're factoring out or getting the greatest common factor first, and then we actually have to factor the whole thing. So we'll begin with getting the greatest common factor of 4x squared plus 6x cubed. So what we have done before is writing prime factors for each monomial. So 4x squared, that is 2 times x times x. And for 6x cubed, that is 2 times 3, and then times x times x times x. So for the common factor, we look at what they have in common. They both have a 2, not 3's. They both have x, x, and another x, x. So for the what we call greatest common factor, that would be 2 times x times x, and that's simplified as 2x squared. So that's where we're going to begin, getting the greatest common factor. But we're not going to stop at just having 2x squared. We are going to continue with using that greatest common factor to factor out this monomial. So 2x squared is the greatest common factor. And then after that, for each monomial, we're going to determine if we already have factor out a 2x squared from this, what else is left. So it's basically doing what's 4 divided by 2 and what's x squared divided by x squared. So with that first part, so I'm looking at this first part, it's simply doing what's 4x squared divided by 2x squared. Like when we did the rules of exponents. So we divide the numbers. What's 4 divided by 2? That is 2. And then x squared and x squared, you have the same thing. It's like subtracting the powers. You're going to have 2 minus 2 is 0. You will get x to the 0, but x to the 0 is 1. So this turns to 2 times 1. So we'll get 2. Or we could just simply, so let me write the questions again. We could just simply do the cancellation. They both have same powers. X squared divided by x squared. That's 1. So we're left with 4 times 1, 2 times 1, or simply 4 over 2. What's 4 divided by 2? 2. So that's what's going to happen when we factor out this greatest common factor from here. We will be left with 2 on the inside, and then plus the same thing here. So I will divide that 6x cubed by 2x squared. So I divide 6 by 2, that will be 3. And then with the x, it's simply subtracting their powers, 3 minus 2. And we'll get 6x, 3 minus 2 is 1, 6x to the first. Then after factoring out that greatest common factor, this is now 2x squared times 2 plus, what did I get? 3x, and I don't need to write that 1 because it's understood that the exponent of x is 1. Now, for me to check to make sure that I did not do anything wrong with my steps, I will check it by multiplying this. This is an option, so you yourself can identify if you got the right answer. So let me distribute this like the previous lesson, multiplication of polynomials. So what's 2 times 2? 4. And x squared times 1, that's only 1x squared. Or simply what's 2x squared times 2? That's 4x squared. And then on the second term, what's 2x squared times 3? I will begin with 2 times 3, 6. And then x squared times x. We add the powers. What's 2 plus 1? 3. So this is x cubed. So we got it right. It is the given. This is the original question. So that means the factors that I found earlier are the right factors for that given polynomial. Okay? So we're not only considering what's the GCF is, but it's actually what two factors you multiply to get 4x squared plus 6x cubed. Example number or letter B. Let's factor 3x squared minus 2x squared y squared. So we will begin with getting the greatest common factor. 3x squared, that is 3 times x, and then 2x squared y squared, that is 2 times x times y times y. And after getting those prime factors, let's pick what they have in common. So they both have x and x times x, and x times x. So that means for our greatest common factor, we'll have what they have in common, which is x times x, and simplify that as x squared. So that's what's gonna be taken out as a common factor. So x squared. Okay, then the next thing I will do, divide its term by that common factor. So let's have this 3x squared divided by my x squared. So let's have 3x squared divided by x squared. And I'm doing only 3 divided by 1, so 3. And then x squared by x squared, let me just cross that out because you got 2 minus 2 is 0, and x to the 0 is 1, and 3 times 1 is 3. So all you have to remember, once their powers are the same for the same variable, just cross them out and you will be left with the numerical coefficient. So what I obtained is 3. And I move on with the second part of my polynomial. So which is, let me get a different color. So which is 2x. Oh, it's not different. Let me do it over. Something different. Okay. So now I'm gonna have this for the second part. 2x squared y squared, and I divide that by x squared. So what's 2 divided by 1 is still 2. Then I will cross out what I have in common, the x squared and the x squared, and I'm still left with the y squared. So that means 2y squared would be my quotients when I divide the polynomial or the monomial 2x squared y squared by my common factor x squared. Okay, so I'll get 2y squared. Okay, and then for you to check, for you to determine yourself if you got it wrong or if you got it right, multiply it. Multiplying it will make sure that you have the correct factors. So I do this times 3, and that will be 3x squared. Then this times negative 2y squared will have negative 2x squared y squared. Now let me change the color. Let me do this over. So I multiply them. What's this? Y squared. So I'll get what's 2 times x squared, 2x squared, y squared. So I got it right. So therefore, my factors are this. Okay? Right, so let's have a third example. Okay, example C. Let's factor 12x to the 6th, y to the 4th, minus 8x to the 5th, y to the 3rd, plus 4x cubed, y squared. So just like what I've been doing, I will start with their greatest common factor. So 12x to the 6th, y to the 4th. I'll write the prime factors for 12. That is 2 times 2 times 3. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. And then x times x times x times x times x times x. Let me double check. 2, 4, 6. And then y times y times y times y. So that would be for my 12x to the 6, y to the 4th. And then next, negative, or let me just say 8x to the 5th, y to the 3rd, because we can take care of the negative later. So for 8, 2 times 2 times 2. And then for x to the 5th, x times x times x times x times x, that's x to the 5th, and then y cubed, y times y times y. And then the third one, 4x cubed y squared, that will be 2 times 2 times x times x times x, and then times y times y. And then identify what they have in common. 2 2's here, 2 2's, 2 2's, and then the x's, we have 3 x's in common, 3 x's, 3 x's, and then all of them 2 y's, 2 y's, 2 y's. So for the GCF, we'll have 2 times 2 times x times x times x, and then times y times y. We simplify it, 4x cubed y squared. That's a common factor we are going to use. So take that common factor, 4x cubed y squared, and then we divide. What's 12 divided by 4? That is 3. And then with the exponents, I will just do 6 minus 3 for the x's. That would be 3. And then this is 4 minus 2. That will be 2. Then minus, what's 8 divided by 4? Which is 2. And then 5 minus 3, that is 2. So x squared. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So I still have a y here. And my last part, I will have 4 divided by 4, 1. X cubed divided by x cubed, that's also 1. Y squared divided by y squared, that's also 1. So if you notice, the last term right here is our greatest common factor. So if we are factoring out that greatest common factor, that means we're dividing this same thing. So this divided by itself, so I will get 1 for my third part. Okay, so then I will check it to make sure that I did not mess up with the factoring. So 4x cubed y squared times 3x cubed y squared minus 2x squared y plus 1. So this times this, multiply them, multiply them. Okay, so what is 4 times 3? 12. X cubed times x cubed, that's x to the 6th. Y squared times y squared, that's y to the 4th. What's 4 times 2? It's 8. What's x cubed times x squared? That's x to the 5th. What's y squared times y? That's y cubed. And then 4x cubed y squared times 1 is 4x cubed y squared. Okay, so we have same, the product that we got gives us the product or the question in the original question. So that means we have these right factors. Okay,